Well, I figured it was about that time that I brought you my post-Week 16 edition of the 2015 NFL Mock Draft. Now, some interesting things to note as you look at the two-round edition in the description box down below. First and foremost, I think stands out is the fact that of the teams picking at the top, and at this moment the teams with the first 3 picks might be in a unique position where none of them will be looking at head coaching changes this offseason, which makes it a little bit more difficult for me when trying to evaluate what these different teams could do. Because, especially in the case of both Tampa Bay and Tennessee, I could definitely see both of them going quarterback with their first-round pick, but that's not necessarily a guarantee, especially because you're not necessarily starting over with a new regime. That regime has already been in place for a year. Now, in this case, I still have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the number 1 overall pick going quarterback because, again, if they end up with the number 1 overall pick, they have to go quarterback. In this particular case, though, I go with Jameis Winston. I see a lot of elements of Cam Newton to him, some on the field, a lot off the field. And I see somebody like Lovie Smith envisioning a guy like Jameis Winston as somebody that he thinks could be a big-time quarterback in the NFL, which he might very well, from a physical talent standpoint, be able to be. But being the type of guy that a Lovie Smith could be a positive influence over, be a nice, calming, steadying force, and as a result be able to keep his nose clean off the field and keep his butt productive on the field. And when I look at him as opposed to Mariota, Lovey's always struck me as the type of guy that likes more of that traditional pocket passer at the NFL level, which definitely Jameis Winston fits the bill for more so than a Marcus Mariota. Now, with the Tennessee Titans, it was kind of hard because on the one hand, I wanted to slot a young quarterback there, but one, I'm not sure that Wisenhunt has the patience as a head coach to work with a young quarterback. See Arizona, see this year potentially in Tennessee as well as examples. Furthermore, I'm not sure Mariota is the best fit for him, and I think it's fully possible that the Titans go into the offseason looking for a veteran quarterback. Please be Jay Cutler. Please be Jay Cutler. So, again, I don't think they could go quarterback. Now, in terms of the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're in kind of a position where a lot of people think that better days are ahead, could potentially see where better days are ahead, but the reality is they haven't been that very good at all the past few years. And while there maybe in some ways has been a little bit of a growth, at the end of the day right now as I do this, they're 3-12. How much have they really grown and improved? They've got a young quarterback that frankly hasn't shown me a whole lot in Blake Bortles. They've got some talent around him. But you still have a team with a lot of holes and a lot of needs. And they've talked about getting proactive in free agency, trying to address a lot of their holes. But if you're trying to build a team primarily through free agency, you're missing the point and you're ultimately missing the boat. In this case here, I think at the end of the day, they have to understand that Blake Bortles is the priority. That's who they have to build their team around. And the most important thing they could do this offseason is to upgrade the protection on the offensive line in front of Blake Bortles. That offensive line is terrible, both in the running game and in particular in pass protection. And a guy like Ronnie Stanley out of Notre Dame fits the mold of that athletic prototype type of left tackle, which might allow you to move Luke Jokel over to where he's maybe better suited at right tackle. And with one player, you have upgraded 2 positions, which would be significant. You're providing a pair of tackles that really could help keep Blake Bortles upright and really protect him and do a better job in the running game, again, protecting your young quarterback. That, to me, has to be the philosophy of the Jacksonville Jaguars. As much as the temptation might be there to get a great edge rusher like a Shane Ray or to get somebody like a Leonard Williams that you could line up all over the place on that defensive front, at the end of the day, you're building your team around your quarterback, your young quarterback that you just took with a 3rd overall pick in this year's draft. You have to protect him. You have to prioritize him over everything else. You have to give him every chance you possibly can to succeed, because if he fails, it set your organization back for years. Again, just like what happened with Blaine Gabbert. You have to help him. You have to protect him. And in order to protect him, you have to give him a better offensive line. I've got the Jets going with Mariota at number 4. I mean, it seems kind of like a logical situation. You're probably looking at a new head coach. I'd almost surely say a new general manager. They're going to want their own guy. They're going to want a young quarterback. The Jets organization needs a franchise quarterback. No more Penningtons, no more Sanchez's, no more Geno Smiths, no more Michael Vicks. They need a guy that could be that guy for a long period of time. And at this point in time, I would applaud them fully for taking a guy like Mariota. And I wouldn't be all that surprised if they were a team that tried to move up 1 or 2 slots in the draft to be able to ensure that they got their young franchise quarterback. The Jets might be a team that you have to be on the watch out for in terms of trading up in the 2015 NFL draft. In terms of a slotting of a lot of these other picks between the first 2 rounds, it's kind of hard at this point because we're getting close to the end of the season, but we haven't gotten to that off season where I can start to see trades that are made, free agency moves that are done, cuts that are made, coaching changes that are made. And that's what keeps a lot of this draft, mock drafting in flux for me right now, is that I could see some coaching changes coming, but I'm not sure what all coaching changes will come because I have to see who that new coach is going to be, what type of staff he's going to bring in to kind of envision what that philosophy of that organization might be. And in some cases, if a team is going to fire a new fire the old GM, bring in a new GM, what's the philosophy and the approach going to be? So when you look at this mock draft here, it's a combination of where I can envision guys going, guys that will move up the draft boards as process goes along, guys that will fall down the draft board as processes go along, potentially directions that different teams may be looking in going forward. Some teams will need to draft off of need and will draft off of need. Other teams will draft off of a best player available philosophy. For those of you who say, well, they don't need this guy, or that's not the best player available, well, that doesn't always apply. You might not also envision it as a need right away, but at some point in time, it will be a need, maybe a year or two down the road. And a lot of times that's how teams approach a draft. It's like why the Chiefs sat there and took D Ford with the 23rd pick in this past draft, because they saw both Holly and Houston becoming future free agents, and they wanted to replace one of them at some point in time with a cheaper option. You see that type of stuff happen all the time. So you have to see again, and you have to understand again, what an organization might be looking at 2-3 years down the road that might be helping to set their draft philosophy right now. But again, my 2-round mock is in the description box below. You can critique it and mock it all you want. You hate mine so much, then do your damn own. And that way I can mock and laugh at yours. Yeah, I'll be back next week when the Week 17 is over and the first 20 picks are officially set in stone with another 2015 NFL.